Shit was all good just a week ago. Man, the old timers used to have a saying, the same things that make you laugh will make you cry. I would hear it a lot growing up. And certainly, man, this past Monday night, it became a reality in ways that I don't like. Man, just a week ago, I was excited that we were taking charge because of JD5 and Bill. And last night, the two of them single-handedly were our undoing. From sugar to shit real quick. I mean, I even had the nerve to go live presupposing that we have battle prep to wrestle the Bears. You know what I'm saying? Like, in a lot of ways, we didn't even show up out of the locker room. It was almost like we were just meant to lose that game. I don't know how else to explain it. I'm going to talk about in this episode all of the things that went wrong. In the words of my good friend Isaiah, sports is stupid. Let's talk about it anyway. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic, and I want to welcome you to my channel, Opinion Stated, where I give unfiltered, opinionated sports takes. Let's go. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic. I want to welcome you back to my channel, Opinion Stated. Man, here we are. You know what I mean? Like the day after, the morning after, the afternoon after the debacle that was the Monday Night Football game between the Commanders and the Bears. Rainy night on the field for these guys. And just a very humdrum game, like the humdrum weather, even though the game was filled with its highs as well as its lows. So I'm going to get into, exactly what took place in the game. But before I dive too deeply in the content, do me a huge favor, guys. Like the video. Liking the video helps us cruise along algorithm avenue, helps us get into the presence of individuals just like yourself who might be interested in this kind of content. Also, subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell as well. Helps you to be notified as to when, my newest episodes are uploaded. Without further ado, I am entitling today's episode, Karma's a bitch from Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Dusty. That title in and of itself makes sense today because of the Hail Mary game from last season that we, just barely squeaked out, man, in a very, hotly contested game, much like last night was, where things went right, things went wrong. And, the Commanders pulled off a heroic Noah Brown, Jaden Daniels and Noah Brown Hail Mary at the end to win that game. And last night's game, came down to the wire again. And it was won at the wire. Went the other way for us, not just because of the field goal at the wire, but also because of some blunders and namely a blunder down the stretch, which we'll get into. Speaking of that, karma being a bitch. If I had to decide between the Hail Mary game and last night's game, like which one I would, rather have been a winner in, it definitely would have been the Hail Mary game. Last night fucking sucked, bro, but be not mistaken, the Hail Mary game was legendary. And last night's game, while it was a very, competitive game, we did everything in that game to lose it. And, what I said to you guys before, if you were expecting me to come on today and be, like sad or to, to be spastic in any way, to crash out, like I'm not. The Commanders presently sit at 3-3, so we're 500, man. We're middle of the road, and we have been playing like a middle of the road team so far this year. And so no crash out, for me in any regard in this episode. But I do want to address a couple things that are, kind of burning for me. I'm going to get them off my chest, and then I'm going to move on with the rest of my week. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to get into the game plan, as you can see displayed here on screen. A 4-quarter game plan is going to run down or play out like this. In the first quarter, we're going to talk turnovers. In the second quarter, we'll talk penalties. Penalties. Keep talking penalties. In the third quarter, we'll talk about the game stats and just kind of review those. And then in the fourth quarter, man, we're going to have just a tough talk and some tough conversation. All of that to say, again, man, you're not going to get, the negative talk about the team and me being down on the team in this episode. So if you are looking for that, you may as well turn the video off right now. Sticking to the 4 quarters of this game plan. Let's talk about turnovers. And, as I have listed here, ball security is invaluable. Invaluable. How valuable? Invaluable. We know that it's a very valuable thing to protect the football, but it is invaluable in terms of, like what it means for securing victories. The Commanders committed 3 turnovers against the Bears last night, which led to 13 Chicago points and ultimately sealed their 25-24 loss. The turnovers included a first half interception by quarterback Jaden Daniels. That was a horrible interception by Jaden, man. Just terrible. Like Jaden was not himself. Something's going on with Jaden. His head, there was no real focus there all night. You know what I mean? I feel like wherever his focus was last night, it needs to go away. You know what I'm saying? So if he's dealing with a new woman or doing whatever it is, man, my guy needs to tighten up, because it wasn't tight last night. The fumble by running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Ja'Cory, a.k.a. Bill, was, stripped on a tackle or prior to the tackle, with his first fumble in the game. And I say first fumble because this guy is kind of arguable, debatable. Maybe the stat sheets will say that Bill had the fumble in the fourth quarter. But I think that fumble, as you can see, man, is on Jaden. The ball just clearly slips out of Jaden's hand on the handoff. And, you know what I mean? Like, Bill never has a chance to even get a clean handoff. And so it's not even like it touched Bill's hand and he just bobbles. It wasn't even put into the bread basket, you know what I mean? Like, efficiently. It wasn't. The ball was already slipping out of Jaden's hand. And so, again, man, it was just, those kind of focus factors that were our undoing as we talk about the penalties. As we talk about the turnovers, rather. So, yeah, man, the turnovers are backbreaking. You know what I mean? Like, the turnovers are backbreaking. There is no other way to say it. I don't have to really spend a lot of time, I don't think, like, beating a dead horse in that regard. Like, the turnovers were backbreaking for us last night. It is very difficult to overcome turnovers in a game. 1 turnover, maybe 2. You know what I mean? But 3 turnovers, it's like you're begging to be beat. You know what I mean? At that point, I feel like we did a lot of things, or did everything in our power last night to lose that football game, even though we did a bunch of great things to get us back into the game. But moving on to quarter 2, let's talk penalties. Penalties. If you've watched any of the previous episodes, where I was laying out kind of the game plan, keys to victory, biggest takeaways from the games. Another game this season, I was talking about penalties and how penalty prevention, say it with me, class, penalty prevention is discipline. One more time, penalty prevention is discipline. It's a discipline factor, man. It is definitely an indication of having discipline when you can prevent just silly ass penalties. And there was an intentional grounding penalty by Jaden Daniels that put us behind the chains. Like, we went from a 3rd and 6 to a 3rd and 16 on this intentional grounding penalty. And you know what I mean? Like, even in that, I know that Jaden had to throw the ball kind of sidearm to keep it away from being deflected by the lineman, possibly deflected and then, up into the air, and then, what could have caused an interception. So he's trying to kind of avoid that, but the ball just kind of sailed him all night. I don't know if it was even necessarily, maybe it's not Jaden. It's not just me making excuses for him, but maybe not. You know what I mean? Like, the commentators even talked about how the teams are able to kind of break in the balls during the week using them, you know what I mean, in practice. And then what happens is those balls become the game balls. And man, I don't know, from the outset of that, I mean, even that sidearm pass that just sailed on Jaden to lead to the intentional grounding penalty was it was just horrible. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the interception that he threw to go back to the turnover was just from just him just throwing the ball, just far too soft, instead of kind of zipping it in there. But yeah, that intentional grounding penalty, the ball, you could see it just clearly just sails on Jaden and above, and out of the area of where a receiver may have been, even because you think with a clean opportunity, obviously he could make the completion. But even at worst case scenario, you're thinking just throw it at the feet of the receiver in that area or somewhere in that area, to where it's not catchable, right? So skip off the ground, just anything in that area, avoids that intentional grounding penalty. But, it is what it is, man. That was a terrible penalty because it led to us then having to kick a very long field goal at the end of the half, which was missed. And so just a missed opportunity there. There was a defensive holding penalty also. That penalty on Mikey Sanders still gave the Bears an automatic first down, 5-yard penalty, automatic first down. So instead of having the Bears face a 3rd and long, a 3rd and 10 situation where, man, now they needed to definitely get this 10 yards or, like have to punt that ball in the space of the field, the area of the field where they were at the juncture of the game, they certainly would not have gone for it on 4th down unless it was like 4th and a smidget. You know what I'm saying? So they would have been put into a position to punt that football away unless they picked up 10 or 11, 12, 13 yards or more on that 3rd down. But I like the momentum that we had in terms of, kind of what the defense was doing. You never really know. But what we do know is that holding penalty extended the drive. And not only did it extend the drive, the Bears scored on that drive. And so that's just debilitating and backbreaking for a defense again, when, you've done a great job holding them on, 2 downs and you just got 1 to go and you get a backbreaking, debilitating penalty, man. So the fucking penalties, bro, it's just fucking suck. But, again, I can spend time harping on it, or we can just allow the obvious to be the obvious. And I'm again continuing to talk about this week after week after week. We'll get into the numbers moving into the 3rd quarter where we'll be able to review the amount of penalties. But you know what I mean? Sometimes, again, man, it's not about the amount of penalties. It's about how and when the penalties occur, at what juncture in the game, and then, kind of what that situation, looked like because of or thereafter. And those penalties for us were just devastating. Taking a look at the numbers, a peek inside the numbers, game stats. So first downs, there were 19 first downs for the Bears, 22 for the Commanders. Passing first downs, 11 or 10 for the Bears, 11 for the Commanders. Rushing first downs, 8 for the Bears, 7 for the Commanders. First downs from penalties, 1 for the Bears, 4 from Chicago. So Chicago had their fair share of penalties being called on them also. As you can see from just the first down numbers, the passing first down, rush first down, we played a relatively even game in that regard. Both teams, right? 3rd down efficiency, they were 3 and 10 to 30%. We were 3 and 8. 4th down efficiency, they were 0 for 1. We were 1 for 1. So there was, some great things happening for us in this game. Things that were working out to our credit in terms of our success in critical situations, their, lack of success in execution in critical situations. But the penalties destroyed us, you know what I mean, to go back to those. So talking total plays in the game, 59 total plays were run by Chicago, 60 by the Commanders. Total yards, 381 total yards in the game for the Bears, 329 total yards in the game for the Commanders. 10 total drives apiece, yards per play, 1 full yard better were the Bears at 6.5 yards per play versus the 5.5 for the Commanders. Still looking at these game stats here. Completion, 17 of 29 for 236 yards was Caleb Williams in the game. 19 of 26 for Jaden Daniels. So a much more efficient game percentage-wise, but only 205 yards in the air, versus, Caleb's 31 yards more. Interceptions thrown, Jaden, obviously, with that 1 pick to Caleb's 0. Sacks, 3 sacks for 16 yards lost, 3 sacks in the game for us for 6 yards lost. So, even in the sacks. But, what they cost in terms of yards obviously was tipped in the favor of Chicago. Rushing yards 145 for Chicago, 124 for us. Jaden broke a couple, to help to contribute to the rushing total. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt didn't break a lot of them last night. I think that the early fumble definitely messed with him mentally. I had the nerve, as I said, to go live, and I talked about on a live how it was good to see what feels to me like his competitive spirit come out when after the fumble, the reporters announced that during the commercial break, he just kind of sat off by himself. Teammates were coming over to acknowledge him, try to encourage him, like, yeah, bro, keep your head in. But they say he was non-responsive, kind of like just wasn't feeling it. And that's, understandable for a person who's kind of in their head. What happens with athletes a lot of times, if you've ever played sports or ever like played, competitive sports on a high enough level, and I'm not saying that I played on the NFL level, but I understand being in those situations where it's like, man, you just get in that space of holding on to the thing instead of letting it go. And it was good to see Jeremy McNichols come into the game and spell Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt for a few snaps. And you saw, Jeremy break one for about 5 or 6 yards or so. And I feel like that jolted Bill back into the mode of being like, like, nah, bro, like I'm good. Let me get back in here and do my thing. And, to have that second, debacle that was a fumble in the third quarter kind of be in his wheelhouse as well as it's in Jaden's was, I'm certain, man, like not a good thing for him to go home on. But it is what it is. Rushing attempts 27 for Chicago and 31 for the Commanders. 5.4 rushing yards per for Chicago, 4 per for the Commanders. So our running game wasn't really that amazing last night, obviously, as it said. But yeah, taking a look at red zone, made an attempt. So 1 for 1 for us in the red zone. The pick that Jaden threw ended up being in the red zone, but we weren't in the red zone. We were just outside the red zone when Jaden threw that pick inside of the red zone. So penalties for Chicago, 9 penalties that for 84 yards for them. So, save us, taking care of business to win that game. They could have looked back and blamed this one on the turnover or the penalties for them, despite us already having 2 turnovers to that point. So I'm sure that would have been just like, man, devastating for them to be like, yo, we had 2 takeaways that led to points for us, but these penalties killed us because we let them in, stay in the game and extended drives for them. And a few times I thought the drive was dead on like 3rd down, and 2 penalties from Chicago led to the drive being extended, which likewise, I can't remember specifically if those drives led to scores or not, but it was the same kind of a thing. So penalties, again, on both sides of the football are debilitating. 5 penalties for the Commanders for 40 yards that cost us 40 yards on those penalties. But again, the 3 turnovers, man, 2 fumbles lost and 1 interception. Defensive special teams touchdown, 0 for both teams. Time of possession, we held the ball for 3 minutes and 6 seconds longer. 3 minutes and 6 seconds longer than the Bears, which actually makes sense given the fact that we had 2 nice looking drives, actually 3, all 3, where the fumbles occurred. They were drives where we were putting together some stretches of some good plays, picking up good positive yardage, and just turned the ball over. So we were controlling the clock there in those spaces, but just, it's annoying. Moving on to the tough talk, man, here of the fourth quarter. A bit of an article that I want to, or just a snippet of an article from ESPN that I wanted to get into. It says, I said, just, hear me out on this tough talk. Just hear me out, right? At the start of the fourth quarter, Moody had a 48-yard field goal block that put the Commanders at their own 37-yard line. Washington, which held a 1-point lead at the time, found the end zone 7 plays later when Jaden Daniels connected with Zach Ertz for a touchdown. The Bears cut Washington's lead to 24-22 on their next drive when Swift took a short pass 55 yards for a touchdown. After a back and forth quarter, Chicago found itself in a position to win after Daniels fumbled his exchange with rookie running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt near midfield. The Bears had 3:07 to work with late in the game and leaned on Swift and the ground game. After a slow start to the season, Swift finally broke through with 175 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. Near the 2-minute warning, Moody was shown on the Jumbotron warming up for his chance to help Chicago earn its second straight win in walk-off fashion. And so, as I was saying, I just wanted to get into that because it kind of gave some, a synopsis of, kind of that end there where if you heard it, if you saw it, I don't have to say much more about how the end of the game played out there. I don't even have to harp on it so much that I'm trying to beat up or dissect, like, the critical nature of any of the things that happened at that juncture of the game. What I do want you guys to hear me out on is I have this tough talk. We have been playing mediocre at best this season so far. Mediocre at best. The expectation coming, from last year with us rather than the excitement and the wave of having made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. I am not suggesting that what we duplicated in terms of the end of season success cannot be duplicated still inside of this season. Hear me out. But what I am saying is that presently, we are looking exactly like a mediocre football team, personnel-wise and also on the field play. A lot of things need to change, man. A lot of the factors need to change in terms of, like I say, the discipline. The execution was there last night, but the discipline factors, every single football game can be basically reduced down to a play or two that, had it gone a different way, would have netted a different result. And so without being too down on the team or too negative about this loss, in the grand scheme of things, when it gets down to the, to the nitty gritty of the end of the season, we'll be looking back on losses like this one because they have implications on your wild card standing and positioning, in the standings, man, moving forward, even if we're able to somehow avoid that wild card. But we presently sit at 3-3, as I said. There are still 11 weeks remaining in this football season, 12 weeks remaining, but 11 more games for us, including a bye coming up here in the next couple weeks. So, man, look, it is what it is. The team is, looking mediocre, but we need to, we need to get better and improve in a lot of different ways. And, otherwise, the tough, talk will turn into tough reality. And, this team may very well miss the playoffs altogether. And so, obviously with the hype and the excitement and enthusiasm that fans are carrying, and, like all the wave of joy that we're riding, into this season and, on the shoulders of Jaden, there's a lot of responsibility. But to whom much is given, much is required. And so, that's been the basis of this episode, man. I will catch you guys in the next one. Like the video if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the channel as well. I look forward to catching you in the next episode. Take care of yourselves until then. Blessings.